about money. It was lovely and geeky last week. I loved it. So let's give it up for Phil as he comes and brings week 2.
Super. Last week, what is money? Just a show of hands. Who was here last week? So nearly all the room. That's great. Some people, only 1 or 2 not in the room last week. You can watch it back on YouTube, but it won't matter because I'll tell you in a little while why. But last week, we opened up this new series called What is Money? And I spoke for like 35 minutes, giving the foundational things about money. And we talked about how money isn't just paper or coins, and how it's moved over to the digital. But we talked really about that it was a store of value, how we store value in whatever form it is, currency, in coins, in notes, in digital. But what we ended up on really and focused in on was the fact that money is a token of trust. That's what it is. It's a token. It's like a little token. We got them little wooden tokens for your free lunch if you're new. But that's your token of trust that you'll definitely get a free lunch if you've got it. But all money is based on trust. It's a token of trust. And money runs on trust. The whole system of money runs on trust. And just to reassure you, because there's 1 or 2 in the room who missed last week, who weren't here, I want to really overemphasize the fact that this is not fundraising. This is not what we're doing. We're not trying to raise funds for the roof or anything. We're trying to learn and understand about money. And we haven't actually, I said last week, I haven't spoken about money for 15 years in this church, which is ridiculous. But I haven't ever spoken about money in this way as well, talking about what is money. So if you're new, I know you might be thinking, like I said last week, it's like, oh, I turn up for church for the first time ever, and they're talking about money. Yeah, shocker. But that's not how we roll usually. We don't take 20-minute offerings. If you want to give, you give. If you don't, you don't. That's cool. But I want to understand and talk about money. And so it brings me to this, I guess, that if money is based on trust, if it's based on trust, the whole system is based on trust, it raises the question that if money is something people trust, why does it never seem to make us feel secure? I want you to think about that. That the whole system is based on trust, and if we have it or have some of it, it doesn't seem to make us feel secure, or if it does, it's only for a little while. And I want us to explore that today and explore why money never feels like enough. And I've got a great scripture from Ecclesiastes. It's brilliant. It's a great picture to start this week off. And it says this: whoever loves money, check that, whoever loves money never has enough. Remember, Jesus warned about loving money, loving mammon, that the wealth that you rely on. Jesus warned about it. It says, whoever loves money never has enough. Whoever loves wealth is never, check it, satisfied with their income. You know the next question. Are you satisfied with your income? Oh, that's a tough question. And it doesn't mean that if you're not, that you love money, but it is an indicator, it's a proxy to measure, perhaps I love money because I'm never satisfied with my income. Oh, it's a hard question. Because if someone was to ask you, do you love money? You'd be like, no, especially your spiritual answer, the bat it straight back. No, of course I don't. But when Ecclesiastes puts it in this way, whoever loves money never has enough. Whoever loves wealth is never satisfied with their income. That helps us strip back them layers of guardedness around our heart that maybe the Holy Spirit wants to poke at today. Because I think even when income increases, many of us in this room perhaps have had our income increase over the years. Generally, that's what happens through life as you get older, move up in jobs. Not always. Sometimes you flip back down to the bottom. Sometimes things change. But even when income increases, even when your savings increase, or even when as you pay down your mortgage and you're getting closer to it, and you're thinking excited, I'm nearly paid off my mortgage as you get older, think about it, that peace does not automatically increase. Have you noticed that with your life? Some of you have got pay increases. Some of you earn more than you ever earned in your life. And yet for some reason, your peace and security about stuff doesn't seem to have gone up in the same manner. And if it has, it's usually temporary. If you get a big pay rise, or you start a new job and you're earning more money, or you've saved up a lot, like you have them moments, that temporal moment of ease and peace of, it's okay now. I don't need to worry about that anymore because I've stored enough. Or I don't need to worry anymore because the income coming in is enough now to meet our needs. I don't need to worry anymore. How long does that last? What, like 45 seconds? Or until the car breaks or the boiler breaks? We can be honest. And I want to explore this idea today that money promises security, but wealth is uncertain. That it promises security, and we fall for it. It's like that friend who promises, or that parent that promises, or that promise, and they always break their promises, and yet we believe them every time. This is what the money's like. It's a great liar. It promises security, but wealth is actually really uncertain. And I want to open that up today. I want to maybe make you look at this in a way that you've never looked at it before. And I'm going to repeat this question over and over again in different guises, but I'm going to repeat this. That is money strong enough to trust your future to? And the reason I'm asking that is because most people do. That's what we trust our future to, is the money that we can earn or put away or build up your 401k if you're in the States, or have a nice nest pot pension, or whatever it is for you, build up your portfolio, or just have enough monthly income. Just getting that pay rise is enough for you in line with inflation. Is money strong enough? That's the question I want you to ask yourself. Is it strong enough to trust your future to? Because so many of us do, even if we wouldn't admit it, especially not in church. So, where do we start? Let's bring the issue into the everyday life. Food prices. Oh, mate, let's bring the tone down. A great time of worship now, like, food prices. Oh, man. I used to live near Tesco's years ago, and when we had one child, we used to shop in Tesco's because it was convenient. Once we got up to 4 children, I ain't going to Tesco's. Nothing against Tesco's, but we're now an Aldi Lidl family. Anyone with me? We're an Aldi Lidl family because the food prices and we buy the cheapest food. And we like spend $1,000 a month just to feed our children that don't seem to. And I've got 3 that are really skinny and don't put any weight on, and they eat lots. It's really annoying. Anyway, get back onto my message. But food prices have gone up ridiculously. Energy bills have gone up, and fuel, like just what's happened recently with the energy bills going up. Rent and mortgages have gone up. Childcare costs have gone up. Transport costs. All of us feel that, right? And if you're cushioned from that, then that's great. If you haven't felt that over the last 3-4 years, then well done, you. But most of us would have felt that. And I want you to frame it like this. You work hard, or some of you work. Yeah, you're hard work. You don't work hard. No, most of us work hard. I think most of us have that mentality. Maybe a few in the room don't, but most of us work hard. Maybe you're working harder than ever. And you earn money. You earn it. Maybe you're earning perhaps more than you've ever earned, perhaps. But somehow it feels like the money stretches less and less. Anyone else for me? Yeah, a few nods in the room. I'm richer, yet I'm poorer. That definitely resonates in the room. I can feel it. I'm richer, yet I'm poorer. And there's a word for this, and it is a dirty word, and most of you will know this word. The word is inflation. Dirty. Boo, inflation. And I understand, like last week I talked about how there's a mix of people in the room of your experience with money and talking about wealth and the monetary system and all that sort of stuff. You'll have people in the room who absolutely know nothing, and it's just like, well, money's money. That's money's money. And that's cool. I'm talking to the room down here, but there's people in the room who maybe got a degree in economics as well. And so I've got to talk to the whole room here. But really, I'm actually starting down this end, like we talked about last week. I want to talk about inflation because most of you know what inflation is, but I want to bring the room up to speed to join us on the conversation. So what is inflation? Inflation effectively is the purchasing power of your money decreases over time. So over time, the power of your money decreases. That's a simple definition. People argue about the words, but your money buys less than it used to. And it's felt by us, the way we measure it really is that prices go up. That's what we feel. That's what we say. Like my wife says this at least 4 times a week. How much? Honestly, she's like, how much? And all of us understand this term inflation, even if you don't like the word inflation. You just know prices go up, don't like, bad, boo. And the best example of this, there's lots of different indexes you can use in the world to measure inflation. The government do it one way. They do it one way that doesn't include housing as well to make it seem like it's not as high. So we can say, oh, it's not too bad, even though it is. There's all different mechanisms to measure this. But the best one that I've found across the year is the index of Freddo the Frog. That is the best index to measure with. In 2005, this was 10p. 10p. In 2025, and now into 26, it's 35p. Some places sell it for 40p. You might get a squeeze and get it for 30p sometimes, or in a multi-pack. But it used to be 10p. It's now 35p. Oh, dirty word. The Freddo didn't get 3.5 times bigger, did it? In fact, it got 10% smaller. It used to be 20 grams, it's now 18 grams. They thought we wouldn't notice. I noticed. It's not 3.5 times bigger. So what happened? Did Cadbury's just get greedier and think, people love our Freddo, we'll just put the price up, and they're still buying them? No, that's not what's happened. Even though some companies do that some of the time. That's not what actually has happened. That's maybe what you think's happening. What happened was the money lost value. That money in that time has, over them 20 years, has lost value. So that 10p is actually worth less than it used to be. That's what inflation shows. That's what happens with inflation. And maybe that would be all right if our wages have gone up 3.5 times in that time. In the last 20 years, anyone who's old enough, has your wages gone up 3.5 times? No. Maybe 3.5% if you're lucky. But the money's lost its value. And inflation is the slow erosion of money's value. Sometimes it happens really quick and there's a mudslide and it falls down, but it's usually the slow erosion of our money's value. And in the current system that we have, inflation is inevitable. So you might think, well, that's just, it happens some years. No, it's built into the system. And that's what I want to get everyone on board and understand money. It's built into the system of how our monetary system works, is that inflation is supposed to happen. They want to control it at 2%. That's what they're trying to do. And when it's higher than that, it's like, oh, it's bad. But if it's at 2%, that's great. Because the system works the way it's designed to. And so inflation is inevitable. It means in the next 20 years, it will be the same. We'll be going, £4.50 for a Freddo the Frog. It will be doing exactly the same. Remember last week I said that money is supposed to store value. That's what it's supposed to do. No matter what form it's supposed to store the value. So in theory, in principle, if you'd have kept that 10p from 20 years ago, it should still be able to buy you the Freddo the Frog, in principle. There's lots of things that could change around that. But as a store of value, if it's actually storing value, that's what it should do. And it used to do that really well. It'd be like a battery. If you put a battery to full, you'd expect, excuse me, I just spat over here. If you put the battery to full, you'd expect it to be full, hopefully. But if you kept it for 20 years, it would probably degrade, wouldn't it, over time? And then it's only got like 80% of its charge after a year of not using the thing. And it's the same with the money. It doesn't store the value as well as it used to. It's still a store of value, but it's like a battery leaking out some of its power all of the time, constantly. So it was a store of value. And it was a good one until about 1971, and we touched on that last week. But inflation means the value of our money slowly leaks away. And it's beautiful because it's reflected in Scripture. Before all this stuff that we understand, in Proverbs 23:4-5 says this, do not wear yourself out to get rich. Many people are doing that today, wearing themselves out to get rich. It says this, do not trust your own cleverness. I love that. What a poke in the eye. Do not trust your own cleverness. And it goes on to say, cast but a glance at riches, and what? They're gone. Just look at your money and it's gone. Some of you like that with your account. You get paid, boom, and you glance at it and it's gone in the next day. It's definitely how it feels. And it says this, for they will surely sprout wings and fly off to the sky like an eagle. What a beautiful picture of your money, of my money, of the world's money, of that store of value. It will just fly away. Even, check this is important, even without you spending it. It can be in the bank, and yet because it loses its value, it flies away. That's what's happening effectively. The Bible recognizes something deeply true, and that is this, that wealth disappears. That wealth disappears. That's what happens to it. If you just leave it, it will disappear. And in our system, it happens rapidly. So, I'm asking you the question again. If money slowly loses its power, is it strong enough to trust your future too? Remember, I think we all agree that most people trust in money and stuff for their future. Maybe you've planned your future. There's nothing wrong with that. We'll get into that future weeks. But is money strong enough to actually place your trust in for your future? Is it, when you understand the monetary system, is it a really good enough thing to trust in? Let's go a layer deeper. Why does inflation happen? And I don't want this to be a TED Talk. I'm not trying to teach you about economics, all right? Because some of you don't care. So if you're like, I don't care, boring, this is not the point. This is about the spiritual side of this, but we need to understand the system that we're in first, all right? So why does inflation happen? Several reasons, lots of reasons actually. Supply shortages, as you might know. If something's in short supply, the price of it will go up because more people are going for it. Energy shocks, like what's happening in Iran, increased demand, all of a sudden more people want the thing for some reason, maybe good advertising, or there's a new need, or something's happened in the world, and people are, oh, I need this now. That'll make inflation happen as well. So there's lots and lots of different things that happened to set them levels, whether you're, and through history, that's always been the case. When your currency is particularly weak as well, that can cause inflation. But the biggest modern problem over the last 50 years or so is the expansion of the money supply. And some of you are like, you lost me now. What do you mean expansion of money supply? Money's money. What do you mean expansion of it? Well, get bigger £20 notes? No. The expansion of the money supply, and I'll go into it in a little bit, but inflation occurs when, effectively, the money supply, the supply of the money we have, grows faster than the supply of goods and services. So as there's more money, but the amount of things we can buy, the amount of goods or the amount of services that are on offer by our economy stay the same, that's what causes inflation. And you might think it's too complicated for me, Phil. Others are like, you've got a degree in economics, you're like, boring. But it is really simple. It's really simple. And I've got a picture for you if you're struggling with the imagery of this, is that I've got a picture, I think, with some apples of a little village. Imagine this village, and there's no other things to buy, all right, to make it really simple. Imagine this village has 10 apples, and the whole village has £10 total. All of the money in the village, and there's nothing else to buy. The village has £10, and it has 10 apples. What happens is the apples end up being £1 each. Because it's like, I've got £1, I can buy one apple. That's what happens. I know it's very simplistic. But if someone came along, Rumpelstiltskin or something, and threw another £10 into the system, so there's now £20 in the system. But there's still only 10 apples, because that's all that the villagers picked. All of a sudden, and not immediately, but down the line, quite quickly, those apples will suddenly become £2. Because there's £20 worth of money, but only 10 apples to buy. And what happens is the price goes up over time as the people are competing for the same amount of apples, but with more money. Imagine that if you only had £1 and an apple was 2, you're like, I can't have it. But if you had £2, you go, well, I'll outbid the other person. So the price goes up because you're willing to pay more. And so as you add more money into the system, the cost of things goes up. They're the same amount of apples, but someone's thrown some extra money in. You think that sounds nice? We've got extra money. The villagers, oh, give us money. But all it's done is inflate the prices of the things you're buying. So, more money, same goods, prices rise. Now, if you could quickly grow 10 more apples, like if we had a tree that just like popped 10 more apples out, it would be fine. And everything would stay the same. But, as you know, that's not how apple trees work. At least not in my garden. You can print money quickly. But growing real things, growing wealth, takes time. it takes effort, and it takes resource. But you can print money quickly. Digitally, you can do it immediately. You see, you can create more money, but you cannot create more value just by printing it. And please stay with me if you're struggling with these concepts at the minute. Considering those facts, considering that if more money's put in the system and it means everything goes up in price, is this money thing strong enough to trust your future to? When other people outside the village can pump money in, when your money is all of a sudden going to be worth half of what it used to be, is it worth trusting your future to? I'm hoping I'm stepping you closer to an answer to that if you're not already there. So, extra money in the system. Money's created, and some of you are like, well, how do they do that? They don't even print them. They used to print the money, extra money, and they just throw it out in the street. That'd be lovely, wouldn't it? But the question, I guess, is where does the money come from? Where does that extra money come from in our current system, in our current world? And we might get a little bit technical, but effectively governments and central banks use tools like borrowing and lending, stimulus spending, monetary policy, and I really want to go into detail with all that, but I'll just bore the life out of you. But sometimes these tools that governments use help stabilize economies in the short term. That's why people like them. It's when they have the 2008 crash, they do lots of policy to make everyone okay instead of some people suffering horribly. So in the short term, it stabilizes things, but it increases the money supply. One way our governments do it is to issue bonds. So some of you might even have bonds. It's like a little savings. I buy a bond, and then it matures in 3 years, and they give me 5% a year. And you think, that's good. But what the government has done is put extra money into the system. That's what in the UK they're called gilts. They put extra money into the system. They put it out into the market to say, but buy this. I'm sort of buying your debt off of you, off of me, off of you, and I'll give you extra money of my future me. That's what it's saying. And the reason you're confused is because it's confusing. But they effectively print money. They're not printing it anymore. It's just digitally been pushed out into the market. And in modern economies, most money is created through bank lending. And this will blow, because I used to think about banking in one particular way. And then a few years ago, when I'd done deep dives on this, I was like, what? And I was like, I can't believe this is how the system works. And I have a very low understanding of it compared to most people. Not most people, compared to some people who teach on this sort of stuff. But the way extra money is pumped into the system is through bank lending. And I'm getting to the spiritual, so don't think this is a TED Talk, like I said. There's how people think about money. This is how people think bank works. Like most people, this is how they think it works. You got 10,000 depositors, so like half of Thetford, let's say, and they all have £1,000 in savings each that they're putting away for their holiday or something, and they each put it into the bank. So the bank's got £10 million of other people's money, and it's saying, I'll hold it for you. Don't put it in your mattress. I'll hold it for you, and I'll even give you a little bit of interest. Next year, I'll give you, like now, 1.1% on that or something. We'll give you a little bit extra, so we'll store. It's like a fee for storing it to keep it safe, so burglars can't get it. Right? That's the way we think about a bank. And then what the bank can do, and this is how they get your interest. The bank can then lend out that 10 million people to say 100 families to buy a £100,000 house, so they can lend it out. And we think that's what happens. They take our 10 million and they lend out the 10 million and they charge interest on that 10 million. They keep their little cut and then they pass on the other interest to you. That's how you think, or most of you think, the bank system works. That's not how the banking system works. They don't do that. That's how it used to work. And then they decided, you know what we can do? We can just print money. And what happens is, how it really works, you have 10,000 people depositing £1,000 each. The bank's got £10 million. Thank you very much, holding it for you. And what they do is they lend out 100 million. Like, but how can they lend it out? There isn't anything to lend out. It's because they don't give it. It's all digital. What they do is they create 90 million pounds. They hold the 10 just in case something happens and someone needs their money back, and they have to give it back, and they have that to pay the interest, but they lend out 90. Well, where did that come from? The bank created it. Digital, they just created it. Some of your faces are like, what? Some of you know how the system works, and you're like, yeah, get on with it. But others in the room, and I'm really pressing this point for a reason, but they just create 90% of the money that they lend out. Wouldn't you love to do that? Like your brother says, can I have a five? And you just go, boom, done. That's 100 quid you owe me. From nowhere. This is how our system works, and it's really important to understand it. Because what happens is when banks issue loans, and they issue mortgages or business loans or on credit, effectively they create new deposit money in accounts. They lend money that they don't have. Just let that sit in. They lend money out that they don't actually have. Just click and magic, it's there. And there's good things about this that we can get into perhaps, but the money's digital. Then it circulates through the economy, and it's just like that village. £10 been dropped into the village. That's what's happened in our system across the globe. This money's been pumped in. And so all the prices go up because no more apples have been grown. Just money's been pumped into the system. So the money supply expands significantly over time, which means the purchasing power of your money decreases. Everything inflates, prices go up. And some of you are thinking, wait, surely that's not fair. That should be illegal. Most of us would think that should be illegal. But that's how governments run their monetary system. That's how they run their... You couldn't do that. I couldn't do that. We couldn't print money. We'd go to jail. But this is how. This isn't a bash of authority or the government. I'm just explaining the system. That shouldn't be allowed. That's not fair. So the banks are creating money and pushing it out, and what the result is, I'm on similar wages, but everything goes up in price, so I'm effectively poorer. That's not fair. My question to you again is this strong enough to trust your future to? If you've for many years relied on money or savings or your income or I'll be okay, knowing this about how the system works, is that strong enough to trust your future to? And for much of modern history, currencies, like I said last week if you were here, were linked to gold. It was called the gold standard, remember we talked about. And this is why I tried to explain this last week so you can get... The money was tied to gold. The bank would store an amount of gold and they had a certain amount of notes that reflected that gold. And so they couldn't print more money because if everyone came to the bank, there wouldn't be enough to give it out. And so it stayed stable. The only way they could put more money into the system is if they got more gold. And gold doesn't rain from the sky. It has to be mined. And so it's hard work, it's time consuming, it actually costs money to actually, so then you have a store of value. You add some gold into the pot, you can print a little bit more money that reflects that gold. And that's how it used to work. Those were the days, they say. Whereas today, we have what we call fiat currencies that we talked about last week as well. Today, it's fiat currencies, where it's linked to just governments. Governments say we're using this name and this thing as a currency, and we're just trusting the government will back it. That's what we're doing. At this time, is that strong enough? Is your trust in the government and the world government strong enough to trust your future to? And economists debate how money systems should work. So this isn't me saying it should be one or the other. But some believe that governments should intervene and they should print money because it stabilizes economies in the short term. Others believe that governments shouldn't be expanding the monetary system because it actually creates instability in the longest term. And my view is, and this isn't me telling you what to think, my view is both of them are true. And there's two main schools of thought, as we wrap up in the last 10 minutes today, is that there's two main schools of thought, and some of you might have heard these terms, Keynesian economics and Austrian economics. There's two ways, and there's lots of different ways of thinking about. These are the two main school thoughts of how we should deal with money. Some people just apply this to their personal life. Many people think this is how two different ways governments could run finances. The Keynesian is a debt-based system. That's the way we run right now. It's debt-based. Inflation is built into the system. You're going to get poorer and poorer and poorer unless you can earn more and more money to keep up with it. In Austrian economics, technically, this is what I like the sound of, things should be deflationary. That means things should get cheaper over time. And some things do, like televisions. Think about television years ago. It was like well expensive for a big TV. It's like 100 quid now for like a 900-inch TV. But in Austrian economics, that's what should happen to nearly every single product. As we get better at making it and we can make it cheaper, it should come down in price. But that's not what happens in our lives. Just as a little short thing, the Keynesian economic system is more like your younger brother. Who's got a younger brother in here? Flipping scallywag, mum always bailing him out. Keynesian's like this, we got a problem, I'll put it on the credit card, we'll deal with it later. Who's got a sibling like that? Who's like that? No, well, one person. Where Austrian economics is more like your sensible older sister who says if we haven't got enough money, we don't have it. We can't afford that NHS, we don't have it. In the Keynesian, it's like we'll borrow and my grandkids will pay for it. Two different systems. And can I say, Christians exist in both of these camps, all right? Because under the Austrian, it can be really painful in the short term, and people who haven't got or have lost stuff suffer greatly. In this system, people suffer in the longest term, and more people, so you can do the balancing act yourself. But my point is that one promotes large amounts of debt, one shies away from debt at all, okay? And as we know, debt is spending tomorrow's money today. Some of you, when you hear that, you think, yay! I get to spend tomorrow's money today. I bring it forward. Yay, I haven't got to wait. Others of you, that terrifies. But I'm spending tomorrow's money today. I'm going to be me tomorrow, and I'm going to want tomorrow's money tomorrow for tomorrow. Where if you're that type of person, well, I can borrow the next tomorrow's money for today. Haven't got to wait. And we've got two different types of people in the room who fit probably nicely into them too. And if you're married, great fun, good luck. But my view is that the Bible does allow debt, all right? Because some Christians will teach you never take on debt ever. The Bible doesn't say that, but it warns about debt. It says debt is dangerous, like fire. Fire's not good or bad, but it's dangerous. It's really helpful, it's useful, but it's dangerous. My view is when used carefully, debt can be a good thing, if we use that term, if you use it to build long-term value, i.e. a mortgage on a house. Quite a sensible idea. Actually makes you, like this building, we had a mortgage on this to be able to do it. We're in a stronger position because we took on debt. That feels weird. We're in a stronger position because we took on debt. And so it can help strengthen your financial future rather than weaken it when you borrow for things that add value. Can I tell you, if you borrow, and this is just me talking, if you borrow just for consumables, you're a fool. The Bible would say you're a fool. If you're borrowing for something that adds value to your life, and I don't mean because I like a fancy car, I don't mean that. I mean that actually has value. Like a classic car it would hold value, might go up in value. Borrowing for that, I still wouldn't do it personally, but it's not a consumable. It's not just something you're spending on that's going to go away and fly away. What's my point? My point is that balanced economists would argue that governments could borrow money, because some people, government should never borrow money. But if money builds long-term value, like infrastructure, then it can be good. Whereas borrowing to fund everyday spending creates problems. That's what the balanced economist would argue. And you might be thinking, oh, I'm bored of this, Phil, get on with it. What are you chatting about? My point is that economists debate the system, but the Bible debates the heart. And it's exactly the same thing. It really is. It's exactly the same thing. You understand the system a bit better perhaps today, hopefully, than you did before. But it's just a reflection of what goes on in our heart. And this is where Jesus steps into the conversation. None of this would surprise Jesus, like the way the system works, even though the system worked differently back in the day, because the heart hasn't changed. The human heart hasn't changed. Long before inflation charts and central banks, long before economists debated monetary policy, Jesus exposed the deeper danger of this in our heart. Listen to this story. Luke 12:15-21, it says this. Then he said to them, watch out, with an exclamation mark. So you know you've got to listen. Be on guard against all kinds of greed. Life does not consist in an abundance of possessions. How much do we need to hear that as a modern society? Life does not consist in an abundance of possessions. And he told them this parable, and I love it. It says this: the ground of a certain rich man yielded an abundant harvest. He's a farmer, grew loads of stuff. It was so much. He was like, wow. And verse 17 says this, he thought to himself, what shall I do? I have no place to store my crops. Then he said, this is what I'll do. I'll tear down my barns and build bigger ones. And there I'll store my surplus grain. I'll store it, store a value for me in the future. And I'll say to myself, check it, because this is what comes with that security and that. And then I'll say to myself, you have plenty of grain laid up for many years. Take it easy. Eat and drink and be merry. He's saying, I've got so much. I'm good. I haven't got to worry. My future is secure. But God said to him, oh, you fool. You absolute muppet. This very night your life will be demanded from you. Then who will get what you have prepared for yourself? That's the problem. He was preparing it for himself. This is how it will be. This is Jesus saying, this is how it will be for whoever stores up things for themselves, but is not rich toward God. So this wealthy farmer has a huge harvest, and his plan, build bigger barns, seems sensible, store more wealth, relax and enjoy it all. I've built up a great fund in my index fund. It's worth £250,000, £500,000, and the interest it provides me, I can have a happy life the whole rest of my retirement. Because he believes stored wealth equals security. That's what he thinks, and that's often what we think. If I can just save enough. Some of us, most people actually don't have any savings at all. Most people have no savings. But those who do, we're saving up to protect for our future. We're having security. For you guys who've invested and built wealth, well done. Great, honestly. Doing it in a wise way, fantastic. And you might have done that, it might have taken 20, 30 years to do it, or you've got it tied up in houses or whatever, that's great. But what we do is we then think like this certain rich man or this certain farmer, that stored wealth is now my security. And it makes me feel at peace. You know God's response to that attitude? You fool. You fool. Even though all of us might feel that if we're in that position, he says, you fool. Not because that wealth had accumulated and it was somehow inherently bad, but because the man trusted something too fragile to carry that weight. And many of you perhaps have trusted in money or your ability to earn income or your husband or wife's ability to income or your parents' ability to store income that you'll inherit. Maybe you've placed your trust in that. But I'm telling you, money, it's too fragile to carry that weight. 1 Timothy 6:17 says this, command. This is Paul writing to Timothy. Command those who are rich in this present world. Most of you switch off. I'm not rich. In this present world, yes, you are. Even if you're the poorest in this room, you're one of the richest person in the world, if you do it in percentage terms. Command those who are rich in the present world not to be arrogant, nor to put their what? Hope in wealth. Command it. Paul's saying, make sure you do this. To command, don't be arrogant by putting your hope in wealth, which is what? Uncertain. But to put their hope in God, who richly provides. He richly provides us with everything for our enjoyment. And that phrase is crucial as I finish up, that wealth is uncertain. Wealth is uncertain. So why do we place our trust in it? I want to be clear. Money is not the enemy. Planning is wise. Saving is wise. Providing for your family and even generations to come is good, and we'll look at that next week. But the Bible warns us repeatedly, wealth cannot carry the weight of our hope. It's so peppered throughout Scripture. There's a lovely bit in Psalms, my last scripture here, that says this, that some trust in chariots and horses, but we trust in the name of the Lord our God. Some trust in chariots and horses. And every generation has its version of chariots and horses. It's the thing that brings security. And the thing that for most of our our country, most of the Western world, for us, what brings that security, them horses and chariots, is money, or is stuff that holds value. You see, money can help you plan, but it cannot hold your future. It can help you plan, but it cannot hold your future. Money can help you plan, but it can't guarantee tomorrow, just like the rich guy who grew lots of crops. Money can store some value, even today in our inflationary system, but it cannot store peace. And it cannot store security. And so my final question, what or who are you trusting with your future? Money or God? And is money strong enough to trust your future too? If it is money, if you examine your heart and you know that's where you've been leaning, I want you to ask yourself, is money strong enough to trust your future to? And hopefully today, what we've chatted about shows you that it's not. And next week, we're going to talk about if money isn't for our security, what is money actually for? Let's pray.